From the creators who brought you RuPaul's Drag Race and $1 Million Listing, this is World of Wonder's Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Wow Report, where we count down the top 10 things of the week that make us go
wow. Wow.
Yes, I'm very excited. I'm Penn Bailey, co-founder of World of Wonder. Very excited because this week we have our special guest, Seth Abramovich, senior writer at The Hollywood Reporter. And you are very graciously standing in for Tom Campbell, who's away on special top secret assignment, you know, that sort of thing.
Big boots to fill, but I'm so excited to be here. And I missed you guys.
We will do it effortlessly. It's good to see you. And of course, joining us as usual, but no less exciting, James St. James, literary sensation, host of our podcast Night Fever,
which is barreling along. We are almost finished with season 5, and we are about to unleash it upon the world, hopefully in June.
I love it. I love it. And Blake, of course, with questions and trivial teasers and things of that nature. All right. So starting the countdown, number 10.
Number 10.
I am watching You again. I'm not watching You or You. I'm watching You, the series on Netflix, which is in season 5 right now. It's the final season. It stars Penn Badgley as a super hunky serial killer Joe who just can't help it. Damn it. He has to strangle, stab, throttle, bludgeon all of the people in his life. It's just one of those things that happens every single season. This season he comes back to New York. Every season he's been in a different city where he has to kill people. Whatever. This time he's married to a woman who is a CEO of a Fortune 500 company, and she has murdered a bunch of children herself. She okayed a pipeline that gave a bunch of kids cancer, and she's trying to cover that up. And her sister is trying to take over the company, and so they're trying to figure it out. And so Joe, of course, has to kill everybody involved to save his wife. Is basically the plot this time around. Now, the shtick of the show is that it's told in the second person narrative. So it's, you're standing in front of the window and you're looking in and you think to yourself, I shouldn't really be there. Or you shouldn't really be there, but you're going to go in anyway. And so you're walking in the hallway, blah, blah. And so the voiceover is always that. And I was trying to think of other second person narratives. And the only one I could think of was Bright Lights, Big City. Right.
That's what I was just
and
thinking
then
of, yeah.
You, Seth, sent a clip from Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, and that was all second person narrative too.
That's true.
It starts off being very clever and funny, but by the end, you're just being bludgeoned with it, and you're just thinking, okay, I get it. Please be done with this. And
is Gossip Girl second, or is that third?
Interesting. We'll have to go back and that will be next week's topic.
Okay.
That will be next week's trivia question. But thankfully this season, I think the writers are aware that it's getting a little stretched out, that it's a little annoying, and they aren't doing as much narration as they've done in past seasons. The whole point of the show is that Penn Badgley is unimaginably hot. He is so sexy to watch. Even though the character is despicable and you're supposed to hate him, you end up rooting for him because he's so hot. I think he should be Batman. I think he would be a fantastic Bruce Wayne. I just love him to death. I'm only on episode 3, but I do know how it ends, and it ends sort of tragically for Joe. So that's your spoiler alert.
Did you see him at the Jennifer Hudson show going down that hallway doing his dance?
Oh, yes, I did. He really can dance, can't he?
He can move. Yeah, it's very cute.
I always think to myself, like, how would I would do the dorkiest dance? There's no way you could ever talk me into doing the Jennifer Hudson show. Like some of the people, but he really, I think he was one of the best. That's when it cemented it for me that he's just the sexiest man on the planet.
Well, wait, doing the dance down the way, who just the White Lotus guy?
He did a good job too.
Oh
he
my
can move.
God!
Oh, yeah, the guy talk or whatever his name. Yeah. Oh, he's so handsome. He should be Bruce Wayne. He's handsome.
The movie just goes on and on in a lovely way. I'm like, that was a complete experience.
But would you be able to do it, Fenton? Would you be able to stand?
No, I have 2 left feet. I just can't do
I
it.
would do some little dorky thing like that, and like the whole of the internet would turn against me.
I probably like the only person who's maybe a worse dancer for me is Trump. maybe.
I'll go down doing the double jerk off.
I don't think he'll be going down J Hud's hallway anytime soon.
Have you watched the show? Do you know it at all?
No, I'm aware of it, but I don't watch you. But I am a fan of his.
The first season is pretty fantastic, and it's thrilling and interesting, and it's a new approach. So it's worth seeing the first maybe 2 seasons, and then it sort of gets a little played out.
All right, I'll do that then.
That's You, right, on Netflix. And this final season is up, streaming on Netflix. Number 9.
Number 9.
James, I have been sitting on this for a while. I think you're going to be slightly mad at me because I was in England the other week and I went.
Tell me, I know where this is going. God damn it. What?
Leigh Bowery at the Tate. Really excited to go and see it. Leigh Bowery, of course, I mean, everybody knows who Leigh Bowery was, but he was a club fixture template for the club kids aesthetic.
And very much a template for like Alexander McQueen and you know, I mean, there's so many people who have taken
Lady Gaga.
Lady Gaga. Yeah, where would she be?
His absolutely outrageous sort of sculptural visual sense was an inspiration to so many people. And he, very close friends, of course, with Boy George, who I think had the best quote about Leigh Bowery ever, calling him modern art on legs. And therein lies, I guess, the challenge. You know, how can the Tate, you know, this august institution, put on a show that kind of captures the performative nature of Leigh Bowery? I mean, you can see the visuals and they're incredible. Yet there's this sort of nagging thing about Leigh Bowery is missing. And without Leigh Bowery's presence in the outfits, animating them, there's a bit like, and it's so maddening and frustrating. There are some video clips.
But I hold on. I do remember you saying when you were doing Party Monster that just capturing a party on film, a party is such a visceral experience that there's no way to ever capture it. And that what you had to do is always put it in the next room where people were talking about the party because there's no way to actually capture the fizzy nature. And I think the fizzy nature of Leigh Bowery is probably missing too because you had to know him too.
I think Jodie Harsh, you know, who sort of came after Leigh Bowery, has just written a biography, You Had to Be There. And I think that kind of, there is that feeling of you had to be there. And even though it is an amazing exhibition, there's a sort of sense tugging at you of like, oh, this isn't quite what I want. This isn't quite it. But of course, one of the other things about Leigh Bowery was that Lucian Freud painted him naked without any artifice and costumes.
Are the Freud paintings there?
They are, absolutely. And that's when the Tate feels they know what they're doing. They know where to hang the pictures. They know what.
No, I'm sneezing.
You're allergic to this exhibit.
And you know, but the thing about the Freud paintings is because I remember going to the Met to see them when they first came out, and they are huge. You see them in books and magazines and stuff. You don't realize that they're 40 feet tall. Well, not 40 feet,
and very sort of fleshy. But what I didn't know is that when Lucian Freud went out of the room to go for a pee or make a cup of tea or something, Leigh Bowery would get up, take the paintbrush, and put a few strokes on it, just to establish his own authorship, which I think is a very sort of telling thing.
Oh, it's like a dog pissing, in a new place. Yeah.
Yes. And then the other thing, there are a couple of video clips, especially there's a British show called The Clothes Show, which was a very not boring show, but a sort of traditional fashion magazine type TV show. And he went to Harrods and did the most amazing piece. And seeing Leigh Bowery talking, wearing his creations, shocking and outraging people is really what it's all about.
I think you're burying the lead here.
Burying the lead. Oh, well, you mean the Enema Show?
No.
Oh. Okay.
I mean the picture with James St. James.
Oh, James, you're quite right. I was looking for you high and low. And yes, there is a tiny snapshot of you
No.
under a glass case, with a label.
Dwarfed by the paintings.
Yes. There's also
a fleshy snapshot.
Yes.
But moving on from
But I'm there. I'm part of it.
You are, James. You are. Actually, I should be asking you all about Leigh Bowery, but I'm not going to. There's a parental advisory room, and so-called because of two things. There were two Leigh Bowery performances that I think were quite mythic. One was when he gave birth to a child. He was on the stage and suddenly goes into contortions and out pops. Actually, it was his wife who was curled up in his stomach, and amazing thing with blood and gore and sausages. And then the other was, I guess people say it was a performance gone wrong, where he bent over, exposed his rear end, and sprayed sewage all over the audience.
No, he knew exactly what he was doing. He did 5 enemas backstage beforehand to make sure it would shoot out very quickly. I was there at Red Zone when it happened.
Seth.
And he was straight,
No,
but he had a wife?
He did have a wife, Nicola, yes.
Okay.
Kind of like a Muse type relationship. Like
Barry
DVF
Diller
and Barry Diller or something.
Exactly.
You know.
And the interesting thing about the birth thing was that it was a Wigstock. She was upside down, strapped
I've
to
seen
him
footage of this
for hours, but nobody knew. He was just walking
knew.
around with this woman, and the blood must have been, I mean, she must have been close to death, I imagine. By the time she popped out with the umbilical cord. But yeah, for hours she was strapped to him.
If you
So
can,
death do they part.
If you can see it, go see Leigh Bowery at Tate Britain, because it is a most amazing thing. And now, without further ado, I've gone on far too long. Number 8.
Number 8.
Seth, that's why we are here for this.
Yes, this has been an insane month for me. I think I've broken records in terms of how many concerts I've seen. And it ended with a Cowboy Carter 2 nights ago at SoFi Stadium. First time I saw Beyonce. Talk about wanting to be at the party. That was the party. You can't really explain what it feels like unless you're there. And it was really interesting experience. It was kind of, obviously very countrified, but she made it her own. But it was also sort of a career retrospective, a lot of like slideshows and videos of her whole life from childhood to Destiny's Child and all her great moments. And you realize like what a gigantic major star this is that you're in the presence of. And she looked unbelievable. She did not look real. I mean, it's just more beautiful than ever. Sang unbelievably. And she really put on
the show, because doesn't she
3 hours.
Yeah, she does. She's famous for her 3 hours. Yeah.
It was 3 hours.
It must sort of feel like, seeing Tina Turner, at her prime, like seeing you're seeing one of the greats that people will remember forever and ever.
Yeah.
You will be talking about this when you're 90. You'll be telling your great grandchildren that you saw Beyonce.
Yeah, and she keeps getting sort of more beautiful and better. I was thinking about Whitney a lot while watching it, and obviously, she did not improve. But I don't know. Sorry, but it was true. She had her problems, but Beyonce keeps it really tight. I mean, just one of the best performers of all time.
But I have heard that the stadium was half full, and that I sort of think that she just done this tour 2 months ago.
Well, it was sold out on Monday. I don't know. There's 5 shows. So,
okay.
Yeah, up to the rafters, and it goes pretty high.
Oh, good. Okay.
And were you in the VIP room? Because the Daily Mail was covering a brawl that broke out in the VIP room, like a full-on fisticuffs. I don't think it was anyone VIP-ish, but it was a VIP room incident.
No, I didn't see that. Actually, everyone was very well behaved, and it was very cute. Everyone came in like spangly glitter and cowboy hats.
I was just a cowboy hat.
I did not. But I wore plaid, which I thought was my nod to the theme. It was long. A lot of the songs I was not familiar with.
Oh, and did you see Blue Ivy and was it Rumi? Who was the other daughter?
Yeah, there was like a 7-year-old that came out during this sweet song called Protector, and she was wearing this gold feather outfit, and it was very touching, and hugged her mommy. And then Blue Ivy did a whole. They did like a section that was like devoted to the last album Renaissance and the voguing ball to the song Deja Vu, and then Blue Ivy came out, and she had this huge growth spurt. I mean, she has like a model body now. It was really
she's a woman. She went from being a child to a woman like overnight.
Yeah, she's taller than her mother, so she got a lot of warm applause too for she did cool voguing down the runway. And then so Honey Balenciaga kind of stole the show though with the duck walking and all that. So there was that section of it, but it definitely was more, the cowboy theme. And then sort of lots of patriotic flags and things. But at the end, there was this sort of like out of Planet of the Apes, this bust of the Statue of Liberty that came jutting out of the stage, and it had a mask on it, and it was very like symbolic, like end of the world kind of.
That's it, because I was thinking that so much of the Cowboy Carter stuff was appealing to red state.
Well, there's that tension there. They also had like Fox News anchor saying, "Why is she dipping a toe into our water?" And there was another reference to like a dog park or something. But she was playing into the fact that she was not welcome in their sandbox. Like that kind of fueled it as well. So this
How many people really can say that they are just as relevant 30 years into their career? That, I mean, even Madonna had some dips by the time she was 30 years in, and the Rolling Stones certainly only had 15 years of relevancy.
What about Taylor, Beyonce? Like, did you find yourself comparing the two in a little way? Because I mean, Taylor's Era show is an epic 3-hour thing too. Do you think they're kind of going head to head, like sort of the mega stars of our time?
Yeah, I did think of her as well, because I don't usually go to these stadium tours. And I didn't see the Taylor tour. So I figured this was as close as I was getting to that. And you're just saying, okay, these are people, physical peak, vocal peak, creative peak, and in complete control of these multi-billion-dollar empires that they now are on top of. So it was, I see them being side by side, even though I know the fandoms are often at each other's throats, but I see them as being very compatible, and I'm sure they really admire each other. And it was great. I mean, top tier entertainment. You can't go wrong.
All right, so that's Cowboy Carter. Oh, it's just opened, right? This was the opening.
Yes, this was the first week.
Yeah, Monday was the first show. She was very appreciative, and she had never sang the songs before from the Cowboy Carter tour, so she was really feeling it, and it was very genuine, So it was nice to be there. And she rides a neon horseshoe through the sky.
That's fun.
Yeah. I know. You have to see that.
Well, that's Cowboy Carter. I guess the world tour coming everywhere soon.
See her if you can.
Yeah. All right.
You'll love it.
Well, let's take a quick break. Blake, do you have a question for us?
Who is Elizabeth Harley dating?
Oh, but we're going to make everybody wait till after the break to have the big reveal here on the Wow Report on Radio Andy.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
Welcome back to the Wow Report. Fenton here with James and Blake and our special guest, Seth Abramovich.
Yeah, I asked, who is Elizabeth Harley dating?
It will piss you off. Just damn it, you didn't realize she was MAGA until now.
What?
Did you know who she was dating? Do you know who she's dating?
I don't. But
No, you don't? I figured everyone would know. James, tell them who she's dating.
Billy Ray Cyrus, who is Mr. Drunken, fall off the stage MAGA at the Trump inaugural. Remember that? He is just the absolute worst, and she is hanging all over him like a wet rag. Just disgusting.
Downgrade, for sure.
Downgrade.
That's just
interesting. Doesn't she have a non-binary model?
Yeah, her son is
Damien, right?
Yeah, Damien.
I love that name.
Who is Steve Wynn's son as well, or something like that? Wasn't he?
Wynn? The casino mogul?
No, some billionaire who was.
Yeah.
And he cut them off at the last minute, and the son doesn't have any, and Damien doesn't have any money.
Oh no.
Steve Bing.
See, Bing wins.
Steve Bing.
James, do not muddle up your billionaires. We're getting down to top 10 things of the week that made us go, wow. Number 7.
Number 7.
I'm just going to keep my outrage going. I'm going to stay angry throughout this entire one because John Lithgow, damn it, it's time to cancel John Lithgow. And I love him to death. I've always loved him, but I'm very angry with him right now. He has signed up to play Dumbledore in HBO's Harry Potter reboot series that's coming up, which First of all, you don't need a Harry Potter reboot. Nobody is ever going to top Daniel, Emma, Rupert, Maggie, Ronnie Coltrane. Nobody, there's no way you can ever top it. And there's no reason on earth to line that horrible woman's pockets with more billions of dollars. There just isn't. And I understand if you grew up with Harry Potter and you have a soft spot for Harry Potter, buy the books used. And if you're at Universal Studio, go see The Simpsons or Jurassic Park. Don't give money to the Wizarding World of Harry Potter. Just do not give this woman any more money. It only adds to her pocketbook. It only adds to her social clout. It only adds to her relevance. And we need to take all of this away from her. And when he was asked about this, when he said, does her anti-trans crusade, did it make you think twice about accepting the role? He said, nah, why would it? I understand.
Well, didn't he say like he wasn't really aware of it?
Well, he sort of made it sound like he said when it was brought to his attention, he said, well, why would it influence my decision to play a role? Which is sort of an actorly thing to say. And maybe he's 80 years old and isn't online and maybe isn't aware of how far she's taken her vitriol.
Well, I saw that he said this will probably be my last big role. And
maybe he wants that last big paycheck to take out, to sail off into the sunset, whatever. But Third Rock from the Sun is to me what Golden Girls is to you, Fenton. I will watch that every night. I love Third Rock from the Sun. I love him. And it's just very disappointing. Seth, what do you think?
Well, it's sort of ironic because one of his first big roles was The World According to Garp, where he played one of the first trans characters in film.
Yes.
And was a very compassionate portrayal. And
was beloved by the trans community for it. I mean, it'd be, looking back, it's a little problematic, but at the time,
probably,
yeah.
So I don't know, but I did notice Pedro Pascal had came out really viciously against her, and deservedly so. And I'm wondering if this sort of boycott Harry Potter movement will actually gather some steam here. She's gone farther, even. You think she couldn't, and then she does. Maybe there will be something to it.
Is this a Zaslav thing, Fenton? Do you know? I mean,
well, let me call him right now. Let's see. No, I don't. It's James. Like, they make a movie. Of course, they're going to make a series. I mean, that's the Hollywood 101, right? To make series of IP. Who else is going to be in this? Because presumably it's got to have more people in it than John Lithgow, right?
But don't you find it problematic to keep giving money to this IP?
It's a bit like the Michael Jackson question, though, isn't it? As well, a little bit.
But she's still a very alive, viable, in her right mind.
Making billions of dollars personally every time we do this.
And changing legislation. The British Supreme Court just made a major ruling.
She has a lot of clout, a lot of power, and we keep giving her more power to do this.
And she definitely does feel empowered. I think the British government just made some kind of announcement about gender. It's all... It's a pathetic thing to say. Is that the whole thing is a tragedy, isn't it? And you can't destroy the Harry Potter.
You're allowed to love your memories of it, but you don't have to actively give money to it now.
No, that's true. That's true.
The anti-trans movement is just taken to its nth degree at this point online. That stopping Harry Potter isn't going to stop the anti-trans movement, but it's a start, I guess.
All right. Let's move on to number 6.
Number 6.
And James, you said quite rightly that we covered this before, YouTube just turning 20. But because we got Seth here, I wanted to kind of throw this open to him because YouTube turned 20, and I think it is the most watched thing on the planet. I mean, there are 5 billion videos have been uploaded in its 20 years. And then on sort of the other end of it, or maybe it's not the other end of it, Ted Sarandos recently, who has made a few uncompromising statements over the years, decided that movie theaters are kind of outmoded and that people don't really want to go watch movies anymore, and that Netflix isn't destroying movies, it's actually saving Hollywood. And thirdly, there was an article on Axios that talks about how the digital creator economy has just exploded since the pandemic. And whereas a lot of internet-related jobs were all to do with coding and you'd have to be kind of a geek, now it's a creative digital realm, and people are making content and creating content. So on the one hand, you've got the traditional industry sort of nosediving, and then on the other hand, you have YouTube and the creator economy exploding. And what do you make of this? There. You solve that.
Well, that's the $64 question, isn't it? I personally know that I will never be fully satisfied with creator and content. Like I need something, with higher production values and more thought and more effort put into it. And so I personally don't think movies will ever fully go away, but I know that they certainly aren't what they were when we were in our 20s, and that, it's harder to capture, young people's attentions. They're too attached to their phones. And I don't think the creator economy is a bad thing. I think it was originally all about look at me and YouTube vloggers and the cult of, personal celebrity. But I think now there's a lot of like very productive content that's being made that, we all use to, from everything from like fixing a leak under the sink to like learning how to be more fulfilled people. And that's like really helpful stuff. And they deserve to be monetized, but I don't think, movies are going away. Do you? Or, they're in a state, but I'm about to go to Cannes in a couple of weeks and I'm so excited to see everything I can there.
Well, I do notice just anecdotally that going to the Grove, I encounter more empty theaters than I do full theaters. Sinners is the only thing that seems to be getting people out in, full theaters anymore. But I'm always in empty theaters. I go every week. More often than not, nobody's there. And the people that are there are on their phone, like you said. So,
but you also just told me you go at 9:30 a.m. on a Tuesday.
Not on a Tuesday. Don't say that in front of Penn, please. For Christ's sake. I don't know what you're talking about.
I do love a morning movie.
I do too. That to me is.
It's just that the movie experience is unique unto itself. And now there are a lot of movies that you can just watch at home, but it doesn't mean one thing or the other, that they both kind of coexist. That's like
there are movies that are better, in theatrical settings. Like I just saw Drop last week. We were talking about that, and the scene where she's falling out the window, and that looks so much better on a huge screen. You're actually as opposed to seeing it on your phone, which is where you watch all your movies, Fenton.
No, I'm guilty as charged, definitely.
Or Airplane.
Yeah.
I think David Cronenberg recently said he doesn't get what the big deal is about the big screen, and sure, watching them at home is great.
But Cronenberg is the one who you have to watch a Cronenberg movie on the big screen.
Well, it was sort of refreshing, to have an auteur sort of push against that conventional wisdom and just say like, well, such a pain to go to a movie theater.
Conversely, would a TikTok video be as enthralling on the big screen as it is on a phone?
Now there's an idea. I love that.
Yeah, the workout ones, maybe.
Just make TikTok movies on the big screen and see what happens.
The TikToks with the guys with the big things that do backflips.
Or the
I saw that one. He had like a pouch. This guy's like, look at my backflip. Like, no one's looking at your backflip.
Jay just wants to see giant bulges. Let's move on to number 5.
Number 5.
My last big profile at the Hollywood Reporter was David Blaine, the magician.
Okay.
Talk about a trip. And so I said I saw a lot of shows. I also went to Vegas twice this month. The first time was for David Blaine to see his show at the Wynn. And so I met him backstage before the show. And he immediately starts telling me about how he broke his arm, came out of the socket because he used to jump 80 feet at the beginning of the show and land on cardboard boxes, which isn't really a trick. It's just something to freak out the audience. And they had to pop it back in, but he continued with the show. Anyway, it was a lot. And then we hung out in LA, and I got to know him. Now he had a really interesting sort of explosion in the late 90s, and he became Leo DiCaprio's best friend during the whole Titanic era.
He was part of the Pussy Posse.
Well, I did ask him about that. He claims never to have heard that word till tabloid later. He played dumb, but he was definitely part of Leo's inner circle of party boys, flitting around the south of France and Hollywood, and living the life. He's dated Madonna, although he claims that it was platonic. I don't know if I believe that. Daryl Hannah, Fiona Apple. He was the it boy.
I remember his Fiona Apple phase. Yeah.
That's the most important thing to me, I thought.
Fiona Apple.
Yeah.
Well,
did he do any tricks for you? Did he when you were?
He
just
did tons of tricks. That's all he does. He has piles of packs of cards flying out of every pocket. Like he just lives cards. And they're his own. He goes to the place in Kentucky that makes the cards and oversees them. They're like his personal cards that say DB on them. And he has different decks for different things. And all he wants to do is do tricks for you. That's all. So you'll just.
And do you believe that it's magic? Do you believe? Do you see through any of the tricks, or are you confounded every time?
I was confounded a lot, although there was one where he was like, he pushes a card on you and he fans it out, right? And you kind of want to pick one, but then he's moving the cards, and you could feel he was like guiding me away from, but I was like, no, I want this card. And you're not going to guide me, and he still got it right. So he's definitely a great magician. But he has this show on Nat Geo where he goes around the world and does very dangerous things with king cobras and hitting himself in the head with a bottle and all these dangerous things to prove, I guess, I don't know what. But it's an interesting, entertaining show.
Why? That's it. Like, do you saying to prove what? But why do you think he does? Like, what is it that drives?
So much of his art, so much of what he does is just like endurance art, and like he sits in plexiglass boxes for a week or whatever without going to the bathroom. Like, what is it? Why? You're right. Why does he do those types of performances?
That was the big mystery, and what my editor kept asking me every time I handed in a draft. He was like, I still don't know why. And I was like, okay, let me try again. But sometimes, you don't know why. He's compelled to do this. And a lot of it is inspiration of his predecessors. There's all these, 100-year-old magicians, and he would look at their posters and he would see the human aquarium who could bring up frogs and tadpoles and things from his stomach. And he wanted to learn how to do that. And he did. And then there was this other guy who was a human fire hydrant who could who could fill his stomach with water and then release spouts of water at will from his stomach. And he wanted to learn how to do that. And he found a guy in Algeria and flew out there, and now he does that. So I think he is part of a long lineage of these weird carny performers that get off on doing things, pushing their bodies to the extreme. But he also does very delicate handwork with the sleight of hand and the cards. So it's sort of a mixture of a kind of very clumsy, ugly stuff and really delicate, beautiful stuff.
Did you find yourself personally not converted, but you know what I mean? Suddenly with a new appreciation for magic or a sort of fascination with it?
Yeah, I'm not a hardcore magic head, but I've always had an appreciation for it. I more was sort of charmed by the whole aura around him and the people that paid extra to see him backstage and the way that he's treated like some kind of modern shaman, witch doctor god. They really, look up to him. It is a bit of a cult. He's a very warm, kind of a softy mama's boy. His mom died when he was 20, but he talks about her constantly. She was the one great figure in his life. And now he has a daughter who he talks about constantly. He's kind of a softy at heart and a goofball. And we kind of bonded. We had a few similar, he's Jewish, and we had similar, same age. So we had a lot of connecting areas, and we've stayed in touch since the profile. He loved the profile, which usually you don't hear back at all, so that was a relief. And we're going to stay in touch. He lives in Paris, and we're going to remain friends.
That makes me that I like that. I like that he's a softie, and that you guys really.
He's a very endearing guy.
And you can read more about him and the full profile at SethAbramovich.com, right?
Yes, it's up there on my website.
As well as much of your brilliant writing and interviews with. I just love the way you curate your selection of profiles. It's always I'd forgotten about that person, or and they're always really thoughtful, deep dives into things.
Thank you so much, Fenton. Coming from you, that means a lot.
Oh, please. Let's have some magic from Blake.
I've got a headline from People magazine, and I'm going to leave out one word, and you guys are going to fill it in, okay? Mm-hmm. Virginia woman left traumatized after finding a blank in her margarita at a Mexican restaurant.
We'll have the answer right after the break here on the Wow Report.
That's a good question.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
Welcome back to the Wow Report. Fenton here with James and Seth Abramovich from The Hollywood Reporter and Blake.
Yes, and I am going to read you a headline from People. Leave out one word. You guys tell me what you think it is. Virginia woman left traumatized after finding a blank in her margarita at a Mexican restaurant.
Used condom.
Ugh, no.
Tiny MAGA hat.
No.
Penis.
Closest. It was a tiny baby snake.
Oh.
Yeah.
Presumably it was living then.
It was living, and it was at the Patron restaurant. The owner of Patron Mexican restaurant told News 8 that the snake likely entered through an air conditioning unit.
Oh.
I guess it fell into her margarita. I don't know. I would be traumatized too. I hate snakes.
But I thought worms,
Yeah.
you get worms in tequila, isn't that the whole
Tequila,
point?
yeah.
Well, but this is a snake.
Right.
And it was still alive, I presume, right?
Mm-hmm.
Squiggling around. Ugh.
Mm.
We're counting down the top 10 things of the week that made us go wow. We've reached number 4.
Number 4.
I wanted to talk about Death of a Child star, R.I.P. Cora Sue Collins. I saw this in Hollywood Reporter and Deadline and Variety this week. Cora Sue was at MGM in the 1930s, and she died this week at age 98. She was probably the last person on the planet who could say that they worked with Greta Garbo, Claudette Colbert, Betty Davis, Irene Dunn, Merle Oberon, Loretta Young, and that's just for starters. She was 3, I think, when her parents put her in her first movie. It was a Zazu Pitts comedy. Who I love Zazu Pitts, 1932. And then she went on to play younger versions of Greta Garbo in 2 movies, Anna Karenina and Queen Christina. And she would have tea every day in Greta Garbo's enormous MGM dressing room. And then they continued to have tea every, as often as they could until Garbo died in 1990. They were best friends forever and ever while she grew up. Her babysitter was Lana Turner, an 18-year-old Lana Turner. She played William Powell and Myrna Loy's child in Evelyn Prentice. She was one of Betty Davis's students in All This in Heaven too. And then when she was 18, she just quit the business and got married and never looked back. She married 3 times, I think, and ended up in Arizona, married to someone who owned a movie theater. But she was a constant presence at Turner Classic Movies and the Turner Classic Movies festivals and things like that. And she sort of seems like she just had a fantastic life. And, there's so few people left anymore who are links to the golden age of Hollywood. And, to lose someone, who else is left? I mean, there's really, when you start losing the child stars, that's when they're all gone, So raise a glass to Cora Sue Collins.
Well, shameless plug alert, but my podcast, It Happened in Hollywood, is back for its 7th season. And a few episodes ago, we had Nancy Olson. Speaking of classic Hollywood, she's 96 or something. She was the ingenue in Sunset Boulevard.
Oh,
great
right.
memory,
Yes.
great stories.
Wow.
She played the screenwriter, aspiring screenwriter, studio worker. And she told me her whole story. And it was incredible. I mean, and she quit the industry as well after Sunset Boulevard. She did not like movie stardom, and she became a wife. And
Wow.
Fascinating. How did you find her?
Well, my friend is a director, and he had seen her talk at DGA and told me about her, the Directors Guild. And I said, "What? She's alive?" And so then I started searching for her, and it was hard, but I tracked her down, and we did it. She was lovely.
Fascinating.
That is amazing.
Yeah, great stories.
Well, number 3.
Number 3.
I'm going to lower the tone significantly. Remember the Queen talked about her Annus Horribilis when Windsor Castle burned down?
Yeah.
Well, I've just been coming across a lot of stories that I'm going to talk about an Annus, or I should say Anus Mirabilis. Because it turns out, James, and I know you know this, the anus is an amazing thing. And this was sort of prompted by, have you seen this Instagram video of us doing the rounds of the dog that ate a flashlight, a light that like a ball? And
I did see that. Yeah.
And so, inevitably the ball comes out the other end and it's just flashing throbbing like a disco light. And
it was, it's not a flashlight. It is one of those dog toys that flashes every color. So it's like he's shitting out a party.
And as happens,
we've all been there, yeah.
Shitting out parties. Yeah, that's the title of my upcoming autobiography, One Woman's Show.
Well, you know what happens on the internet. One thing leads to another. And I came across this article in the New Scientist that says that while we take our anuses for granted, they believe that its original purpose was not to eliminate waste, but that it was actually the thing out of which you would ejaculate, I guess, your fluid, your sperm, to procreate. It used to be how you used to procreate, through your anus.
How would you get your anus inside of a woman?
I think it was a Leigh Bowery type of approach. Just spray it. Don't, just like sort of goes everywhere.
Talk about
there's a will, there's a way.
Bar.
Yes, apparently it gets released to the exterior is how the scientific paper puts it, which I think is suitably vague, right?
Yeah. Well, now we pee out of our...
Exactly. I mean, any hole's a goal, and clearly...
No, but the thing your sperm comes out of is also where you pee, so it just switched sides.
Whoa, right. So it just sort of like inverted and went out the other side.
Yeah.
In the fullness of time, who knows? Perhaps the point of the article is that evolution is a wonderful thing, and something that begins as one thing can turn into something else.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Let's go on to number 2, Seth.
Number 2.
Okay, and this is the final stop on my magical mystery month. I had the opportunity to go back to Vegas, this time to see the Grateful Dead, or Dead and Company as it's known, because they have John Mayer playing the Jerry Garcia parts and other replaced things, but they're quite tight and sound. I started seeing the Dead 1990 at Giant Stadium. I followed some friends, and I was instantly hooked. I loved it. And this was my chance to experience the Sphere, experience the Dead. And so I went and I fully committed to the Dead experience. That's all I'll say about that. Have you been to the Sphere yet?
I have. I saw U2, and I just thought, what a waste to have U2.
Yes, we talked about it at the Christmas party.
Yes.
You hated it.
An outrage. Yes. How dare they?
But I imagine that the psychedelia of the Dead might be conducive to a good time at the Sphere.
Well, you've seen that video of our Andy Cohen partying at the Sphere.
To the Dead. Gets a lot of mileage out of his Dead fandom. But let me say a few things. The band sounded amazing, really beautiful. They played a lot of the great hits and did great jams, and they did a great job. The crowd, mostly like really hot daddy age men. Like very, I would say like an 80 to 20 men to women, and they were like fit, good looking guys, nice crowd, really good energy, everyone's smiling, having a great time. Now, the Sphere, you might enjoy it. The Sphere itself is a very interesting phenomenon in that it takes our addiction to the screen to the natural extreme. So comparing it to like the Beyonce show, where there's all these catwalks, there's all these dancers, there are some projections of movies like Western movies and things, but it's mostly her moving and interacting and all that. That aspect of live performance is not in the Sphere. Everything belongs to the screen, and to the point where you're paying extra to sit higher up. So the section 200,
the opposite of Beyonce,
yeah. You're paying like $1,200 to sit so that you have a better view of the screen, as opposed to $500 to be closer to the stage. So it is a complete inversion of what you consider live entertainment to be. And you are also completely at their mercy in terms of what they put on this screen, and if it's not to your liking, too bad. This is going to be your takeaway. That said, I had a wonderful time. There was great psychedelic imagery. My favorite single effect was a simulation of a giant disco ball with the Steal Your Face Grateful Dead logo on it that looked like it was right there. That tripped me. I can send you a video of it. I was like, blew my mind. So anyway, Grateful Dead, lots of fun.
John Mayer, does he fits in with it? He's perfect for it.
Yeah, well, they've done this for 10 years now, and I saw an early version, and I remember people grumbling, "Why is this, pretty boy, in band? Who does he think he is?" Blah blah blah. But over 10 years, he's earned his place there, and he's a beautiful guitarist. I mean, his solos and everything. He really does a nice job. So yeah, I think he's accepted now, and this is as good as it's going to get in terms of if you want the Dead experience, because Bob Weir is still there, and the original drummer's there, but everyone else is replaced. But it really was a musically satisfying experience.
Oh.
Now, I'll just do a little addendum, which is my friend was obsessed with going to Circus Circus, which is this vintage chintzy hotel that smells like 800 years of cigarettes in there. And it's like a cross between like an arcade and a circus. And it was clearly built before the world accepted that clowns are terrifying. There's clown imagery everywhere in like old school lights, and it's insane. And we couldn't find a single bar. There was a famous like carousel bar that was a big sequence from Fear and Loathing with Johnny Depp. Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas is shot at this place, and there's a carousel bar which still exists, but there's no bartender and no alcohol, and it doesn't turn. And then we had to like find the bar, and there was all these like convicts like gathered around the corner. Anyway, it is the strangest place, but honestly worth a visit, and I feel like they're gonna knock it down soon. And
I've heard rumblings. I stayed there in the 80s, and when I say that 45 years ago, it smelled like 50 years of it was beer on the carpet and cigarettes.
Yeah. Well, I took the kids a few years ago, and I just didn't want to touch anything because I was sure I got some kind of communicable disease. That Circus and the Luxor are kind of co-equivalents in terms of like Vegas of yesteryear that has lost its luster and is all like.
But there's such a beauty to it, and I hate the fact that it's all Bellagio'd out now and whatever. I miss old.
I was so chintzy. I was just a kitsch. What a journey it was. So I recommend.
I had someone fly me into Vegas to do a party. Oh God, this was a couple of years ago, and they put me up at the worst hotel in the seediest part of town. And you know how seedy Vegas can get. I was like in the meth strip over there, but my hotel had a Golden Girls slot machine that I sat at the whole time, and so that sort of. But there is some seediness to Vegas,
and you love it, and you miss it, right? Okay.
Yeah.
One more break. We're going to take one more break, and then when we come back, reveal the number one thing this week that made us go, wow.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
And welcome back to the Wow Report. Fenton here with James and Blake. And Seth, it's been an absolute delight having you, in case we don't get to say goodbye, because normally Blake will be just like, we're out of time, end it now.
So, I have to run very quickly. So,
all right, well, quickly then, what is the number one thing this week that made us go, wow?
Number one.
I did want to just take a moment to say rest in power to our good friend Jiggly Caliente, who passed away this past week, and it was just very beloved by the Drag Race community, and was just always gave 110%, and was, a wonderful performer and a great person to boot.
She was amazing. She was also a guest judge on Drag Race Philippines, much beloved. Definitely she spoke her mind and was just, and for doing so was totally beloved, and not to dwell on this, but just endured a horrible series of events that ultimately led to her death. And it's really sad, but also great that she is not in suffering and will be much missed, because truly a legend.
And coming so soon after losing the Vivian, this past year. So it feels like that was a double whammy right there. Two very beloved people.
Yeah, it's so hard as a fan to experience these losses, but you guys knowing them personally, it must be really difficult. does feel very personal when they pass away way too soon.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's just so sad. Also, that loss, because you wonder what Jiggly would have done. I mean, they're so young, just 44. And the creativity and the artistry was so abundant. You just like, it's just, as you say, just gone too soon. So sorry to end it on that sad note, but
had to be said. We had to acknowledge it.
Yeah. But Seth, thank you so much for joining us, and please come again. Don't be a stranger. And everyone, head over and read Seth's writing on sethabramovich.com, of course, and in the Hollywood Reporter. Thank you, James. Thank you, Blake. And thank you all for listening. Same place, same time next week. Until then, go out and do something that makes the world go
wow.